Hello friends of the internet. I've always wanted to try solo traveling internationally, but just somehow never really gotten around to it, and honestly not sure why. Maybe it's a safety thing as women, or honestly just the fear of maybe trying something a bit outside of my usual comfort zone. If I don't do it in my 20s, honestly what else would be a better time? So I'm excited to show you my entire experience, the ups and downs, and all my learnings from solo traveling, and of course some advice, tips, and recs for traveling Taiwan and Hong Kong. First things first, I took the airport MRT to Taipei main station. It's pretty convenient, but I would recommend buying an easy card at the airport, which you can use for essentially any public transit in Taiwan, but you can only load the card with cash, so make sure you have cash ready at the airport. This is a maze, and I have no idea what this is, but sounds illegal. I dropped my stuff off, and first, caffeine. I realized my Mandarin is so rusty and I have no idea how to order coffee in Chinese, so I literally freaked out because I didn't even know how to say latte. I am a disappointment to my ancestors. Now that I'm caffeinated and have some brain cells restored after my 15-hour flight from New York that landed at literally 5 a.m., the hunt for breakfast begins. And let me tell you, if there's one thing to do in Taipei, that is to eat. And the breakfast is one of the most exceptional parts. Breakfast in Asia will always have a nostalgia factor for me. Growing up, my mom and I used to get up at the crack of dawn whenever we visited Shanghai due to jet lag to get street breakfast together. First spot was a very local shop that isn't even on Google Maps, where I got egg pancakes or dan bing. For drinks, I got sweet rice milk and soy milk. I love soy milk, but I actually never tried sweet rice milk, and let me say, it was interesting. Walk past this apparently really famous confectionery shop called Jioufen. I'm probably butchering the crap out of the name, but they sell everything from the famous pineapple cakes to other things like mochi pastries and mooncake. Then I went to this place that had the best fantuan, or rice roll. You can get them here also with purple sticky rice. And inside there's typically fillings of pork floss, fried dough sticks, or youtiao. Then I walked around a bit more to burn off some calories so I can proceed to eat more later. So I wandered to Taipei 101, which is essentially just a giant luxury shopping mall complex where everyone just comes in to window shop and sit in AC when you're dying from the Asia summer heat outside. Then, drumroll please, I got my first boba milk tea or bubble tea or whatever you call it depending on what coast you came from. Taiwan is the motherland for boba, and I went to Oolong Tea Project and it was so phenomenal, and it was only like $2. In New York, this would literally be like $8. Then I decided to take a spontaneous train to Tanshui, which is a seaside district about an hour train ride from Taipei, and god, this area was so cute, and I'm glad I came because I didn't really plan for this to happen. This area had such a beautiful seaside town charm, and combined with the beautiful weather that day, it felt like the perfect place for a summertime fever dream in Asia. The main street was lined with cute little shops and food stands, and because it was so hot, that was an excuse to get a Yakult slushie. Then I trained back to Taipei, where I partook in a Taiwan classic, the experience of going to a night market. This one is called Raohe, and it's a pretty popular one, and let me tell you, the night markets in Asia are a whole nother animal. The streets are lined with so many vendors and shops, and there are so many people just out and about. I got Taiwanese fried chicken, which was so flavorful and crispy, egg waffles, watermelon juice, and this bun. Oh my god, this bun was the best thing I ate that night. It's from a stand right at the front of the market called Fuzhou pepper buns. It's essentially the super crispy bun with the fragrant green onion and meat filling on the inside, and they make them inside these barrel-like ovens, and they come out literally in golden perfection. Then I ended the night with some refreshing desserts of tofu pudding and pink guava, and with that, I am officially done eating for today. Welcome to day 2, where crippling jet lag strikes at 3 a.m. I tried to go back to bed, but it was impossible, so I thought if I was up early, might as well do something productive. So I got ready around 4:30 a.m. to hike Shangshan, or Elephant Mountain, to catch the sunrise. It was so early that no public transit was running, so I actually had to Uber to the trailhead, which honestly, not a bad idea because it was pitch black outside. Although Taiwan is generally pretty safe, the harsh realities of being a solo female traveler is you always just have to take precautions. The hike itself is honestly not super bad. It was just a lot of stairs for maybe like 20-30 minutes one way. My weather app said sunrise was at 5:30 and I got to the trailhead at like 5:15, so I thought I was gonna miss it. So I basically sprinted up these stairs in like 10 minutes, only to be met with not really a sunrise, but it was still really beautiful and peaceful, and you kind of get the iconic shot of the Taipei 101 building. I went down at around 6:45 and decided to just walk around the neighborhood surrounding Shangsan. But since I found the area to be really charming, I thought it would just be really nice to walk around. Also, for summers in Asia, the mornings are one of the only times you can actually enjoy walking outside without immediately sweating buckets and feeling like you're dying. I hopped into a 7-Eleven to grab a can of convenience store coffee to get me by before the cafes start opening. Then I left the area to go get some breakfast at a chain called Yonghe, which also does traditional style Taiwanese breakfast. I got similar things as I did yesterday of egg pancakes, rice rolls. I also got youtiao, which is a fried dough stick, an essential part of Taiwanese breakfast. And this place also had a soy milk latte that was pretty fire. Then I made my way over to a very charming area of Taipei called Dihua Street, which essentially comprises of a couple of streets lined with traditional shops, markets, and also just has that old vintage style vibe and architecture. And after walking around a bit, I proceeded to get a second breakfast, as one does when in Asia. I tried this thing called renbing, which is kind of like a Taiwanese spring roll, and it wasn't my favorite, but I also did get congee, which tasted quite good, but I was high-key sweating after. This area also had plenty of cute tea shops and cafes, so I got some tea from this really cute tea shop. On top of getting milk tea, of course, we'll highly recommend you actually try the tea itself here, because especially their famous Ali San tea. Then I actually scheduled a photo shoot in advance. One of my goals of my trip was to embrace my East Asian culture and identity more as an Asian American, so I wanted to do a shoot in a qipao, which is a traditional Chinese dress that was popularized in the 1920s. Another reason why I wanted to do a shoot was to, LOL, don't make fun of me, but to capture my youth, because I do want to look back one day, hopefully when I'm like 90, and be like, yeah, grandma used to get it. And I tried on a bunch of different qipaos and landed on picking this beautiful dark teal toned one with black and gold detailing, and the ladies at the store were super nice. They adjusted the dress to fit my body and also did my hair, which I'm super thankful for because I'm awful at doing my own hair.
我觉得我应该如果没有出生在就是华语的世界，我就要单独把中文练好，其实蛮不容易的。
Once I was fitted and styled, my photographer and I essentially walked around Dihua Street and shot both indoors and outdoors, and I was lucky that the afternoon I chose was absolutely beautiful golden hour bliss. I posted the final results of my shoot on Instagram, so you can also follow me there to check them out. When it's sunset, I headed over to a bar/restaurant that one of my good friends here in New York recommended called Indulge Experimental Bistro, which was actually listed as one of Asia's top 50 bars, and I got some really unique drinks and small plates. Then I headed over to another night market in the area called Linjiang, and it's one of those that's supposed to be a little bit less crowded. There I essentially got boba from a really amazing shop called He Sangying, which is funny because in English that translates to being addicted to the drink, which is kind of valid. I too would be addicted to bubble tea more so than I already am in New York if it was $1 like it is in Taipei. I already know that I'm going to be so sad about $8 mid bubble tea when I'm back in New York City. I wrapped the night with a hot bowl of beef noodle soup from a local shop, and that's it for day 2. Today is the day I'm by far the most excited about because I'm going to be going to Jiufen, which you haven't heard of before, is the super Studio Ghibli-esque mountain town about 2 hours away from Taipei. Before hopping on a train, I grabbed breakfast at a little sandwich shop called Fang. This black sesame soy milk was out of this world. Also, I quickly stopped by this cafe to grab some coffee and also try one of their super indulgent cinnamon buns that was delicious. I hopped on a train now, and the first stop on the way is to a small area called Shifen. Most people, I feel like, going to Jiufen stops by Shifen because it is on the way and its old street is really cute. I always love riding the trains in Asia into the smaller mountain or seaside towns on the outskirts because it's just so aesthetic and beautiful, and I feel like I can just low-key sit in a train all day with this view listening to some music. I got to Shifen and you can kind of see the vibe here. A popular thing to do here is the sky lanterns. A lot of people write hopes or dreams that they want to come true and release it up to the sky. Notice that there are specific stands that makes theirs out of biodegradable material, so if you do want to do a lantern, might recommend one of these to minimize environmental impact. LOL, I literally wrote one about landing my axle, and if you follow all my other content here on this channel, you may know me as a competitive figure skater, and landing my axle has been one of my biggest hurdles on my journey that I'm working on, so I suppose I'm praying to the gods here for it to come true. For lunch, I grabbed tomatoes and eggs over rice, which is one of my favorite dishes growing up, and now eating this made me feel so happy because it just felt so warm, homey, and comforting despite me sweating as I ate it because it was like 95 degrees outside. So right after, I got iced tea, walked around a bit more, and did some souvenir shopping before hopping on a train again. Once I got to jiufen, I dropped my stuff off at my Airbnb, which was really cute. There's tunnels and tunnels essentially of small streets with street vendors serving food, gift shops, tea shops. The vibes are just really vibing. Here's the tea house you're all waiting for. This is the Spirited Away tea house lookalike that everyone raves about, and the actual tea house is called Ame Tea House. I don't believe it has any formal ties to Studio Ghibli, but the right vibes are there for sure. So I actually wanted to try getting tea there, so luckily I snagged a spot near the edge of the outdoor terrace where I just had this beautiful view of the mountains, the ocean, and the town, and I had some tea and snacks, and honestly, not gonna lie, could not have asked for a better afternoon. I sat there until the sun was about to set, and as soon as the sun started going down, the red lanterns across the whole town started turning on, and let me tell you, I literally cried a bit internally. There was just such a beautiful sunset that day, and the purple red afterglow coupled with lanterns was just chef's kiss. After watching the sunset, I got dinner at one of the many restaurants in that area and got jioufen, or braised pork rice, some chicken, some veggies, and fish cake. After dinner, I walked around some more as the town quieted down a bit as all the day trip tourists all left. I highly recommend staying here for one night rather than day tripping. You get to catch jiufen in the late evening and early mornings when it's the most beautiful and magical and peaceful before it literally gets slaughtered by tourists. And also ran into the cutest sleeping kitty ever. How does this not look like it's from one of those anime Studio Ghibli postcards? Honestly, could not have asked for a more magical day. Hello, jet lag, my old friend. Okay, I don't know why the hell I did that. I really can't sing. For some reason, I woke up at 4 a.m. once again. I used to pride myself in being able to get over jet lag pretty quickly, but for some reason, this trip has been particularly rough. Maybe I'm just getting old. But oddly, not mad because I'm crazy and I was planning on walking around jiufen in the wee early hours of the morning anyways because I just wanted to see what the town feels like when there's no one around and no one awake. It was pitch black when I first started and I just slowly walked around and kind of just waited for the sun to rise. The sun was finally up, but it was only 7 a.m. still, and nothing is open except for 7-Eleven, so I went in for breakfast. And let me tell you, I love the convenience stores in Asia. Just everything about them, the nostalgia, the vibes, how cheap everything is, how it's open 24/7. Though it's obviously not as good as the 7-Elevens in Japan, the ones in Taiwan are still pretty awesome. I got an onigiri, which is like a universal 7-Eleven in Asia staple. I tried apple milk, which sounds really odd and interesting, but I saw it a couple of times now in Taiwan and I was just intrigued. I also got congee and tea eggs, which is my favorite part about Taiwan 7-Elevens. I sat in this little outlook area by the 7-Eleven and this was by far one of my favorite memories from the trip. It was just beautiful weather, good food, peace and quiet, just literally my type of vibe. I checked out of my Airbnb and grabbed coffee from Chi-Liv. I'm not sure how to say this cafe, but it was one of the few cafes that opened up earlier and they had a jiufen latte, which uses black charcoal and actually tasted pretty good. I trained home and the train station actually had a 50 won, which is another popular boba joint, so of course I grabbed a drink for $1 and got lunch at a local Japanese place. Surprisingly, Taiwan is supposed to have some of the best Japanese food outside of Japan because it actually used to be under Japanese rule. Then another spontaneous adventure I ended up having was going to Beitou, which is like a mountainous northern part of Taipei that's famous for its hot springs. I am the biggest lover of the Japanese onsens, hot springs, Korean spas. After a lot of walking, I was honestly really feeling some rest, so I went to soak in an onsen for an afternoon. And I ventured back south to go to Huaxi Night Market to eat at a famous braised pork rice place called Wayne's Broth that literally everyone and their mother recommended to me, only to find that it was closed on Tuesday, the one day I decided to go. But ended up getting a good ball. And it was actually Michelin recommended, and it was essentially a bun with marinated pork inside, and it was really, really good. Then I actually found a small restaurant in a market because I was feeling more of a proper meal rather than a series of street snacks. I went to the seafood restaurant and got steamed fish, veggies, and rice, and it really did, in fact, hit the spot. Then I walked around the market after and this stand caught my eye. They were literally scooping liquid into plastic bags. So of course I had to try it, and turns out this is called IU jelly, which has like a mild tropical fruit flavor, and it's sweetened by honey and sugar. And honestly, it was really refreshing and not too sweet, which is the ultimate compliment any Asian can give for a dessert. And oh yeah, also ended the night by getting my fortune read. That's a story for a whole nother day. Good morning, y'all. I'm gonna start off the day by going to the most famous Taiwanese breakfast joint, and that is Fu Hang Doujang, or Fu Hang soy milk. And I kind of avoided it so far because my friend kept saying that the line is usually really scary and out the door and onto the street. We got really lucky that morning. I went at a really random time that was not even that early. It was maybe like 8:30. We got traditional sweet soy milk, savory soy milk, fried dough stick, thick bread sandwich, sesame flatbread sandwich. The savory soy milk is actually something my mom always loved ordering when we ate breakfast together growing up, but I never really got it or bothered to try it, so I'm actually having it for the first time here, and it was actually pretty good. The thick bread sandwich was my favorite because it high-key tasted like a bagel, so it low-key felt like I was eating like a New York breakfast bagel sandwich again. The caffeine addict and jet-lag traveler in me is really feeling kind of zombie now. So I stopped by Simple Kaffa nearby because it caught my eye, got an iced black pour-over, which was actually quite rich and nice. I was in desperate need of a haircut, and haircuts here are so much cheaper than it is in New York, but usually like last summer when I went to Korea, I do a lot of research before getting my hair done because I'm definitely afraid of fucking up my hair. However, to learn to be more spontaneous and just letting go a bit more, I picked a random salon, I didn't make an appointment, and just showed up and prayed. They literally had one stylist that could take me as a walk-in. This ended up being my haircut. The hairstylist was super sweet, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't think the hair quite suit my style, and at first, I was kind of stressed, but I'm kind of used to it now. Then, because I'm stubborn and determined to try wings broth that was closed last night, I went all the way back to Huaxin Market for lunch to get the famous braised pork rice there, and let me tell you, the trip was worth it. This was one of the best things I ate the entire trip. The pork just melts in your mouth, and literally my mouth is watering while editing this right now. Eventually, I made my way over to Ximending, which is a really popular shopping area, and literally a replica, like an exact replica of Myeongdong in Seoul. There was this small street on the side that had a bunch of secondhand vintage stores, which was quite cool, and a lot of cool murals, but the main street is more for fast fashion and just these cute little souvenir shops. Got dinner nearby at a very hole-in-the-wall beef noodle soup place that had excellent side dishes. And that's a wrap on day 5. Crazy how time flies because today is my last day here. I had another shoot scheduled in the morning, and this one's a little bit more related to my sports and athlete career as a figure skater, so parts of the shoot were more focused on movement. Then I actually went to an ice rink skate for fun. And I know I said in one of my past videos that I wasn't going to skate at all during vacation, and that holds true. I really didn't want to do any form of just formal training, but this was truly just for shits and giggles. I didn't bring my skates, so I had to wear rental skates for the first time in like 5 years, and man, I got humbled and I forgot how awful they are. I could barely do anything in them. The most I could do was maybe baby push into a scratch bin. So later on, I actually felt a little bit under the weather, and maybe it was just because I was tired, but I didn't do awfully too much that evening and just honestly rested for the rest of the day. Good morning, guys. Today I have a 7 a.m. flight to Hong Kong, so cheers to yet another 4 a.m. wake up, and this time not by choice. The flight was not bad, but God, getting all of my suitcases to my hotel was a nightmare. What I've learned is that this whole place is tiered, so there's so much elevation and stairs required to get from one street to another. I was sweating buckets dragging my suitcases, so I was so relieved when I finally made it and could shower. I took one of the vintage looking trams to get lunch from a Da Pai Dang, which is essentially a hawker center that's actually sadly a dying thing in Hong Kong. I got Hainanese chicken rice, which is actually one of my favorite dishes. After lunch, I took a train to Choi Hung Estate, which essentially is Cantonese for Rainbow Estate, and it's quite the fitting name, and it's home to one of Hong Kong's most famous public housing complexes. You most definitely seen pictures of its famous colorful rooftop basketball court that you can access through a set of stairs in a parking garage. The sun was directly roasting me alive, but I got some pretty cool shots. I met a stranger from Belgium, and I just soaked in a view of what a slice of life looks like living in the more residential areas of Hong Kong. Not gonna lie, after that I was pretty pooped from the sun, so I went back and rested early and just got a quick dinner from 7-Eleven rather than going out. I randomly woke up really early once again, so I went to grab coffee at a cafe in a neighborhood called Central. This place is called Halfway Coffee, and it was by far my favorite cafe I visited the whole trip. I got the honey longan latte, and it was so delicious, and the interior aesthetics were just on point. I sat for a while and did some reading, and I was honestly so glad I came to this area because surprisingly, it reminded me a lot of New York. Not going to lie, it was day 8 of solo traveling, and honestly, I felt a little homesick, which is surprising because I usually never feel that way when I travel. I realized that I underestimated how being with friends, family, or an SO brings a sense of home along with you. However, while solo traveling, I think it's easier to feel like you're missing that essence of home or just even a sense of familiarity because you're just so immersed with a new environment. That's just an unexpected revelation, I suppose. Then I wanted to try some of the famous Hong Kong egg tarts, and I heard this place called Bakehouse had phenomenal ones, so I got egg tarts and this salted egg yolk bun, which was both so good. And then I made my way to get official brunch or lunch, and on my way I realized there was actually a giant escalator in the middle of the whole area. It's called the Central Mid-Level Escalators, and it's actually the longest outdoors covered escalator system in the world. I 100% wanted to try yum cha, which is essentially dim sum and tea, and it's a Hong Kong classic. It kind of feels like Asian afternoon tea in a way. I got these barbecue pork buns that are just so cute and shaped like little piggies. I got shrimp jiufen or rice rolls, shrimp dumplings, and pork ribs. Eating the jiufen made me so happy and nostalgic because even though I'm not of Cantonese background, growing up my mom would always buy me takeout boxes of it from a dim sum restaurant near our Asian supermarket, so it was always something I really looked forward to. Then I took a ferry across Victoria Harbor to get to the other side to an area called Shim Sha Tsui, which is supposed to have the best view of the Hong Kong skyline. I essentially just walked around in an area they called Avenue of Stars, which is essentially like the Hollywood Walk of Fame in LA. Then I wanted to try traditional Hong Kong milk tea and toast. And by milk tea, I don't mean boba, but like the old school Hong Kong style milk tea that uses black tea and condensed milk. So I went to a really traditional Hong Kong tea restaurant called Lang Fong Yun that has been around since 1952. I legit couldn't find it for like 20 minutes because it's like tucked away in an underground plaza. The milk tea was actually quite good and really rich in tea flavor, but the French toast was kind of interesting. It was not bad, but there was just so much butter on it that it was a bit hard to eat. Unplanned, but the underground plaza actually had a really cute vintage pop-up shop, so I shopped around for a bit and got a couple of cool pieces at good prices, and shortly after, I went all the way to the super popular Instagram pier just to get rained on. The area gave me big Hudson River in New York vibes. Honestly, nothing super special. I felt like I could have skipped coming all the way out here. Honestly, my favorite part was the tram ride back. I'm a bit obsessed with these little vintage trams here. Combined with the rainy day vibes, I honestly didn't mind that the tram ride back was almost like an hour long because I was just kind of vibing. I stayed in Wan Chai, so it was actually a bit far, and I actually wouldn't recommend staying there because getting to a lot of places was kind of a pain. I would probably stay in Central if you can. I was soaked in rain and sweat, so I showered and I was back out and on the road. I don't know where I'm getting this energy from because I'm actually pretty tired. But I went back out on the ferry again because high-key, it was a bit more convenient than taking the bus and the subway. I mostly wanted an excuse to see the skyline again at night, so I grabbed dinner at a hole-in-a-wall wonton noodle soup place that was near the area I was in this afternoon, and it definitely hit the spot. So you thought the night ends here, but nope, I decided to do something a bit crazy. I wanted to see what the experience of going out solo feels like. I've never done it before because one, being a woman alone at night will unfortunately always present a risk, even though it shouldn't be that way. And two, the social construct that going out is something you only do in a large group or with friends. It felt so weird to take the bus by myself to go out, like honestly deeply uncomfortable, but I went to a speakeasy bar first. I did my research and many people did say this place is insanely hard to find, but it was truly hard to find and also kind of sus. It's in some old former police and prison complex, and I was getting pretty lost and creeped out. Turns out there's like multiple bars in this complex, so I actually went to another establishment by accident, but I asked the people who work there and they were super nice and actually offered to walk me there, so I finally managed to get there and grab a quick mocktail before going clubbing. Getting a drink at a bar alone, not too bad, but going clubbing alone, is an experience and a half. I would say I'm usually someone who doesn't feel awkwardness very easily despite being an introvert, but man, this was a bit too uncomfortable. I decided to slap some bravery into myself, found a group of girls who looked quite friendly, so I started talking to them, and it turns out they were Hong Kong locals and they were really nice. It really felt heartwarming to know that girl code is universal. Despite us not being able to communicate super well, they really looked after me. We navigated the crowds together, we went to the bathroom together, and they even made sure that I had a way to get home safely at the end of the night. So overall, solo clubbing, not a bad experience at all, and definitely a personal stretch for me. I was so close to sleeping in, but my biological clock was just like, nope. Despite sleeping at 4 a.m., I still got up naturally at 7 a.m., so I decided to hike Victoria Peak as planned. Hike is a strong word because I actually took the Peak tram for most of it because the tram is really cute, and also I was feeling pretty exhausted by the end of my trip. I would recommend going early because I heard the lines for the tram get really busy later on. When you get to the Peak, I walked around the main building there, and I would say the best view of all of Hong Kong is actually a short hike away from the Peak. After getting off the station, look for a sign called Lugard Road, and this is essentially a path that is maybe 15 minutes one way that takes you to a beautiful outlook area that, in my opinion, gives you the best free view of all of Hong Kong. After, I got quite hungry, so I went to get dim sum one last time. Got congee salmai, which is a kind of Chinese dumpling, and my favorite again, shrimp jiufen. I also got a sponge cake, which was giant, so I took it to go. I dropped by Taichung Bakery, which is also famous for their egg tarts, but more of the traditional Hong Kong style, where the filling is more jelly-like and bright yellow, and instead of a flaky pastry crust, the crust is like a cookie. This was good, but I think I actually still prefer the style that I had yesterday. And that's a wrap on my first solo international trip. I think there was just so much to love about solo traveling. There was an overwhelming freeing feeling that you could just do anything your heart desires. You end up having a lot of quiet time and space to just think and reflect that you may not usually get in your day-to-day lives, especially for me as someone who lives in New York and always feels like everyone here, myself included, is jumping from one thing to the next nonstop. So I feel like sometimes I don't get to fully process the things I'm experiencing to the depth that I want to. There's the beauty of connecting with strangers that you would not have met otherwise. Do want to acknowledge that solo traveling was not all just rainbows and butterflies and comprises of all these main character energy moments that everyone romanticizes. What I didn't expect was I actually did feel lonely at times and oddly homesick. And what I do love about traveling with others is being able to react to something new with another person, to have dialogue about the experience of what you're seeing and doing in the moment. Perhaps I could have done a better job at pushing myself to meet strangers or other human beings to connect with if I stayed at maybe like a hostel. Would I solo travel again? The answer is most likely yes. Thank you for allowing me to share and reflect on this new milestone with you all. I hope to watch this video again in 10, 20, 30 years down the line and be able to remember and relive what this experience felt like, how I processed my thoughts as a person and experienced the world when I was in my 20s. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I would love you 3,000. Leave in the comments down below what country you dream of solo traveling to. Until next time, bye guys.